After a long time, Saw X finally arrived to the big screen. Chronologically, this movie comes after Saw 1. Without further ado, let's begin. John undergoes an MRI due to the brain cancer he has been diagnosed with. He later attends a cancer support meeting, where he meets Henry, who claims to have received a terminal diagnosis and plans to fight it. Later, John's doctor advises him that it is better to give up, because the brain cancer he has no cure or treatment, plus he has 3 months to live. Shortly after, John sees through a window how the janitor's person steals a dying patient, and it is here where we are shown the trap that was promoted so much, in which the person is tied with a pair of tubes in each eye. The trap is simple: he will have to turn a switch where each finger will be billed for each level, this to pay for his sin of stealing and be able to redeem himself. But if you don't succeed in time, those tubes will absorb your eyeballs. But in reality this trap does not happen, but is in John's mind, and the man upon seeing it recants and leaves things where he saw them. Time passes and a destitute John is about to write his last will and testament when he encounters an apparently healthy Henry, who claims to have been cured by an experimental cancer treatment performed by Norwegian Dr. Cecilia Peterson. John investigates this further. In the evening, while researching more about the clinic, he finds a video of Dr. Peterson, who talks about the experimental procedure he has invented. But upon entering his website, he finds a video apparently of his daughter, who explains that he has had to go into hiding due to the attack he has had from the pharmaceutical companies and that she will now be in charge of the clinic, and that they have moved to Mexico in a secret location to be safe. John, desperate, contacts her to sign up for treatment. John later receives a call after submitting his medical information, where he is told that he can start treatment within a week. John travels to Mexico City, where a cab driver named Diego takes him on a quick tour, which he would later use as inspiration for his future traps. Finally, he arrives on the scene and is greeted by Gabriella, a working relative and former patient of Dr. Peterson, who also had cancer and is now healthy. When she finally meets the doctor, she gives her a tour through the facility, and tells her that she has had to hide from everyone, and also takes the opportunity to introduce her to the caretaker and her son Carlos. She also shows him the facilities where the operation will take place. There are the anesthesiologist Mateo, Valentina, one of the nurses, and finally Parker, one of her patients, who was operated on for thyroid cancer. In the morning, the doctor explains to him that he will be partially awake during the operation. Neurosurgeon Ramon Cortez will be in charge of the operation. While he was being operated on, John saw the video of how they were performing the operation on his brain, and then put him under general anesthesia. John wakes up to find Peterson congratulating him and affirming that his surgery was a success. John believes his cancer can be cured and finds a new lease on life. So he buys a gift for Gabriella, as a thank you for taking care of him. However, when he returns to the facility to give her the gift, he finds the building ransacked and abandoned. He watches a series of video tutorials about neurosurgery, and right there he finds the video he saw during his operation, realizing that it was all a fraud, and upon removing the bandage from his head, he discovers that they did absolutely nothing to him. Deducing that Dr. Cortez was actually Diego in disguise. Later John kidnaps the cab driver and sets him up in a trap. He has a pair of bombs strapped to each arm, and 2 scalpels taped together. What he will have to do is cut off his skin in order to remove the bombs. Diego survives the trap and provides the information of everyone involved in the scam. That's how John makes a call to ask Detective Hoffman to help him locate some people. Later they find Valentina, who is not really a nurse, but a woman who gives pleasure for money, and is trapped by a person in a pig mask. This also happens to Mateo, who is not an anesthesiologist, but rather a veterinarian, who is also attacked by the person with the pig mask. Gabriella, who is an addict, is attacked in the bathroom by the same person who attacked the other victims. The last one missing is the doctor, who is at home, making preparations for her next victim, but this time in Bolivia, but she suffers the same fate as all the others, rebelling from the one who helped John all that time to capture all the others was Amanda. John takes everyone to the same place where the operation was performed. Valentina is the first to play, as she is forced to cut her leg with a Geely saw and extract 100 grams of marrow, otherwise the same type of saw is strapped to her neck. However, she runs out of time and subsequently dies instantly. Amanda empathizes with Gabriella, because she was also an addict in the past and tries to convince John to set her free, because sometimes addicts do things against their will to get what they need, but this is to no avail, because for John everyone has free will and she was able to decide whether or not to participate in that scam. While they were talking, in a jacket that Amanda leaves, a phone starts ringing that everyone listens to, but for that they need a rope, and I won't say what they do because YouTube would censor me the video, but it is the longest organ we have in the body, and they get it from Valentina's body, and once they reach the phone, Cecilia makes a call, but before she could say more, Amanda discovers her. The doctor lies to John telling him that she tried to dial his father, since he is actually a doctor and can help him, but John doesn't believe her lies, he decides to continue with the game. But when they were making preparations, Parker arrives, one of the patients that John met the day he arrived at the clinic, and he is demanding his money back because he discovered the charade, but since he was bringing a gun, Amanda finds him first and ties him to a chair. Parker tells them that all he wants is his money back, but John proposes something else, and that is to watch the games he is playing as a form of redemption from all the con men, and at the end of it all, he will get his money. John tells Amanda that Gabriella is next, but because he has an affection for her, she decides to change plans, being Matteo the one who takes her place. Matteo is subjected to the brain intervention trap, and finally Billy the doll makes an appearance, bringing all the necessary surgical instruments for him to perform it on his own. All he has to do is cut a piece of brain cortex and put it in a container of acid so that he can get the key to free himself from his chains. The big problem is that he will have to do it without anesthesia. Matteo manages to perform the procedure, but just like Valentina, time played against him, and the mask closes, burning and electrocuting him completely. The next one to be put to the test is Gabriella, who refuses to listen to the recorder, so whether she wants to or not, the game begins, and John is in charge of explaining what she has to do, since she is suspended in the air by one foot and one hand, and in front of her she has a radiation machine that will gradually burn her skin. To free herself from her chains she will have to fracture her foot and hand in order to survive. Gabriella manages to do it, and now they have to rush her to the doctor so that she can live. But unexpectedly, Parker takes his gun that John had hidden, and asks him to take her to Cecilia. And there it is revealed that he was actually part of the scammers and never had cancer, but that the call Cecilia had made earlier was to save her. Both force John and Amanda to put on their chains, and John begs her to take Gabriella to a doctor because he has won their game. But without mercy, Cecilia decides to take her life right then and there. Cecilia, seeing through the camera that Carlos was playing with his ball, goes after him to chain him to one of the ones John had originally prepared for Parker and Cecilia. John and Carlos are subjected to a trap in which they are both placed on a seesaw under nozzles that shower them with blood. Both John and Carlos are able to tip the seesaw by pulling levers, and both make efforts to save each other while taking turns getting the worst of it. While the game is in full swing, Parker and Cecilia go to the room where Amanda and John previously supervised the games. They find the bag Cecilia used to store the money she stole from her victims. However, when they get the bag, a trip wire is triggered that stops John and Carlos' trap. John reveals that Diego ratted out Parker as one of the con men, so John anticipated his arrival. So they devised the plan to leave a phone in their midst in order for Cecilia to call Parker to rescue her so they could find him, and the gun he was carrying. While Parker was unconscious, John had removed the gunpowder so the bullets would be useless, making it clear that the two of them were always the main target of the whole night, plus the last game was actually set up for Cecilia and Parker, but things did not go as John had hoped. Cecilia and Parker discover that the room they are in contains their final test, then a deadly gas begins to fill the room. Their only respite is a small hole through which one of them can stick their head to ventilate. Cecilia ends Parker's life by sticking his head through the hole. However, she can only watch as John takes the money she stole and gives it to Carlos, whom she calls a warrior. John, Amanda and Carlos leave the facility on a bright, sunny morning. What do you think of this movie? Do you think it still retains the essence of Saw? Leave me your comments. See you next time.